WGU Idea Cafe, sponsored by Wright Graduate University for the realization of human potential. Our topic today is growing yourself up, a developmental approach to leadership. I'd like to welcome our online participants. It's great to have you here, and we have several friends here in our live audience, and welcome to all of you. We're going to have a few opportunities for you to participate remotely today, and invite you to do that. And so here is how to participate online, which I invite you to and encourage you to interact today. Directions: type your comments into the webinar chat window, and I should see them. So we'll see how that goes. And so if you have a question, comment, or anything like that, we'd be delighted to hear from you. So let me introduce myself. My name is John Davidoff, and I am a student in the WGU doctoral program. I completed our master's degree program in 2017, and now in the doctorate. And it's a very, very exciting experience for me. I went back to school in my 50s to develop myself. I didn't really even know I had a self to develop, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. And you all have a self to develop too, and we're hoping that what you learned from our webinar today on growing yourself up will contribute to you creating a stronger, more satisfied, more effective self. That's what our game is here at the Wright Foundation for the Realization of Human Potential and Wright Graduate University, which I'm going to call WGU from here on out. Professionally, I am the founder and chief mission driver of Davidoff Strategy. We're a national firm supporting organizations to learn to be mission-driven. And we know that mission-driven organizations are built by mission drivers. So our work is largely in part of supporting individuals to grow themselves up, to be more effective, more engaged with themselves, self-aware, more engaged with others, one-to-one and one-to-many. And that's also part of what I'm going to be sharing about today as well. The biggest influence on our mission-driven strategy methodology has been the WGU curriculum. So it's a really honor for me to be here today to present this to you because it's influenced me personally as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a business owner, as a member of the worldwide community. And so I'm really pleased and honored to be able to share what I've been learning and continue to learn with you. My two business partners and I all decided to go through the WGU Master's program over the last decade to develop a core understanding of what does personal transformation actually mean, how do we bring it about for ourselves, and how do we bring it about for our clients to help them become mission drivers and to lead mission-driven organizations. Our firm is a national firm. We have clients all over the country, primarily in business, in nonprofit, in associations and philanthropic foundations. They're working on areas of society that, for me, have a lot of meaning. Things like education, things like public health, civics, human rights, the environment. So our mission at Davidoff is very synergistic with what WGU teaches about developing a stronger self, becoming a more satisfied and effective individual, and the Wright Foundation mission, which is to make a world that works for everybody. So in this webinar today, I'm going to introduce you to one of the core models that we study, which is the Wright Developmental Model for Personal Growth, developed by Dr. Bob Wright, one of our founders and CEO here at the Wright Foundation and at WGU, and a mentor of mine for a long time, and one of the intersections in my life that I am forever grateful for and has taught me that grace does exist. Before I introduce you to the Wright Developmental Model, I'd like to find out a little information about all of you, because you chose to spend your time with us today in this webinar called Growing Yourself Up, a Developmental Approach to Leadership. So I'd like to have you look at these two questions that I'm putting up on the screen now. First, how would you like to grow yourself up? And second, how would you like to grow yourself up to improve your leadership? And for folks at home and here in the room, if you'd write down at least 3 different ways you'd like to grow yourself up, and then feel free to share any of those online. I'd enjoy seeing your responses. We asked this question in past workshops, so I thought I'd share some of the answers that we've seen, and maybe these might stimulate some of your own answers, and you can sort of say, oh, do I resonate with any of these? Such as people said they want to make more money. They want to have greater influence. They want to feel more satisfied at work and throughout their life. They want to increase their effectiveness and improve their productivity and have better handle on time management and deeper relationships and more meaningful work. And the list goes on and on. You can pick and choose from there and see which ones resonate with you. But to really get a lot out of this webinar and to get a lot out of life, it's important to want. So these questions are really, really important. Let me give you another question. What is in the way of you and getting what you want? And here's some responses that we've had from past workshop participants, but I'd like you to answer that for yourself. This is a really important question. What's in the way of you getting what you want? And some of the answers that we've heard in the past, and see if any of these resonate with you. Not making time or space for it. Lack of intention. Procrastination. Multitasking. Family obligations, overcommitting, saying yes too much, feeling guilty for saying no. I think I actually resonate with all of these, which is a problem, but somehow I continue to manage. But these are very real, and they don't make us bad people. They actually make us real people, because these are the beliefs that we each have that actually get in the way of us intending to make our lives better, intending us to be more satisfied, intending for us to be more effective. When I first started taking courses at Wright, I came in here, I had had a very successful career. I was in advertising and marketing. I traveled the country. I worked on big, famous advertising accounts. I worked in Hollywood. I met celebrities. I spent big budgets. But when I got to Wright, I realized I didn't really know myself. My life was very much informed by things external to me. That's how I affirmed myself, by what was the last airplane flight I'd been on, who was the last celebrity I had been a guest of at their concert, what was the last time I'd been in Hollywood making a TV commercial. These things defined me, and I thought that made me who I was. But what I ended up discovering through the courses at the Wright Foundation and at WGU is that I had lost touch with things that were very important to me. I actually did not know much about who I was, and I had to go back to the basics of early childhood development that we're going to be learning today in the Wright developmental model, to understand what were my yearnings, what were my feelings. And those are really core tools in all of us really discovering and developing ourselves. So let me give you some tips on how to get the most out of today's webinar. I'd like you to bring your full self to the webinar experience. And some partially talking to myself here, that means don't multitask. I'm not going to multitask today, so ask if you could try and put everything down and be here with us for the rest of our webinar today. I think you get a lot more out of it. And also be with yourself emotionally. Pay attention to what are you feeling right now. At the Wright Foundation, we teach 5 core emotions: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy. Fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy. The other reason I'm asking you to be here more fully is this is a huge body of work I'm taking you through in today's webinar. Last month, I had the honor of teaching this same course, but I taught it over the course of 12 hours in 3 different 4-hour workshops. It was a very rich experience for me and the participants, and so I'm giving you just a taste today of the Wright developmental model for personal growth and what it can do for you and for me and for all of us. So I hope that taste will go a long way and invite you to the next leg of whatever your journey is towards growing yourself up. A couple assumptions we have at the Wright Foundation. One is that Wright assumes that you have the power to transform yourself in a way that brings you more of everything that you deeply desire. So it's important to desire. Second, we believe that developing a greater understanding of yourself, you will establish better rapport with others in your life and have more abundance in your life. We want that for each other and for ourselves. And also, the Wright Developmental Model will help you better access, organize, and deploy what you know. It actually will organize you to vision, know yourself, and go and get the life that you would like to have. That's really what personal transformation is about. So in this course, you will learn and apply the Wright Developmental Model to yourself. So let's get started with the Wright Developmental Model. Here's a picture of the model. It was developed in the 1980s by Dr. Bob Wright, who I mentioned earlier, mentor to me of many years and mentor to many others, and an advisor to hundreds, thousands of people. Bob, back in the 1980s, had clients who said, boy, what you're doing for us is really working, but we want to know what you're doing. And so that came out of research Bob did with his clients. And so he and his colleagues said, you know what? Let's change up the game. Let's give the keys to the car to the clients and let them drive their own lives. And that's how the Wright Developmental Model came to be developed. So by introducing you to the Wright Developmental Model, we're giving you a chance to have your experiences and an understanding of how to use the model for yourself. And I'm going to go into the model in just a little bit. I can tell you the model has been used by thousands of people over the last 35 plus years. It's been taught, tested, informed. It's been in workshops, one-on-one coaching, taught at the graduate school level. It is a powerful, powerful tool. So I hope you will soak it in today. The Wright Developmental Model looks at 7 areas of life, and this is a great way to think about each of our lives. These areas of life are first informed by a gentleman named Alfred Adler, who followed Freud in the world of developmental psychology, and that's a whole other webinar, a very cool man and inspiration for me. Adler said that we have 3 core areas in life: intimate relationships, our career, and our relationship with the community. Bob expanded Alfred Adler's lists to these 7 areas. So when you consider what's important to you and how do you want to see your life grow and develop, think about these areas: body, self, family, friends, work, society, spirituality, or relationship with higher power, or whatever the vernacular that works for you. But Dr. Wright concluded that when students develop visions for themselves in each of these 7 areas of life, their personal growth accelerates. That's why it's really important to have a vision for yourself, for each of us to have a vision. The next thing I want to tell you about the model is a lot of it's based on levels of consciousness. And what we know about consciousness from our study of the brain through neuroscience is that the unconscious, we have very little awareness of our consciousness. The unconscious is only this world of dark motivations that we're not really even in touch with. And the studies show that we are conscious to really only 1/9 of what's in our brain and what's going on with us. 8/9 of our brain and thoughts and feelings are actually unconscious to us. We are unconscious to them. When we look at the conscious mind, 11 million bits of information enters our brain every second. Get that, 11 million bits. And 16 bits enter our conscious mind every second. I mean, it's significant. So here's another picture that just shows you how much of what we're conscious to is actually a very small part of who we are and what our experiences are. So back to the Wright developmental model, which is a model of consciousness. As we grow and develop, we are becoming more self-aware, more conscious, and we say at the Wright Foundation that consciousness is the win. And that's what we're working towards, is to be aware of ourselves. There are 7 levels to the Wright developmental model. The model is meant to be used in a moment-by-moment experience. It's not something that it looks like something you might climb up over time. We actually are up and down at different points in the model at any given time. And we're going to focus today on the first 3 levels of the model, levels 1, levels 2, and levels 3, because that's really tied to what happened in early childhood and also what didn't happen developmentally, which is where we have a chance to grow ourselves up again as adults. But before we explore the first 3 levels of the Wright developmental model, I would like to talk about emotions. So any of you have feelings? Are you feeling anything right now? See, most of us learn to shut down our feelings, and we pretend that we don't have feelings. And remember earlier in the webinar, I talked about the core feelings of fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. Here they are again: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy. But do you know the function of our emotions? The functions of our emotions, and this I'm going to give you a little Freud here, very early on in developmental psychology, but Freud had something called the pain to pleasure principle, the pleasure-pain principle, which is that as we work through our pain, we work towards more pleasure in our lives. But we can't work through that pain if we're not aware of that pain. And that's why being in touch with ourselves emotionally is so critical to our work. Another part of the, I'm going to hold off on this, of the model is unfinished business. Unfinished business is a concept that was written up a lot and we study a lot by a guy named Fritz Perls, who created Gestalt psychology, Gestalt therapy. And unfinished business are those developmental needs that didn't get met as children. We didn't learn to meet them, and we're going to talk more about that as we go through the model, and that are with us today as adults. And so part of the focus and the work of the model is to be aware of where did my developmental and emotional needs not get met and are still not getting met, and how can I make some shifts to learn to better take care of myself. So should we get into the model? Everyone ready to go? Let's start with level 1. So level 1 starts out with very, very early childhood, 0 to 6 months old. And at 0 to 6 months old, our need is to be fed, to be changed, to be kept safe. This is the very early ego state of early childhood. And if the need for security is not being met, then we're sort of in the state of upset, the state of how am I going to survive? Who's going to take care of me? Will someone pick me up? And so what do we do to comfort very young infants when we see them upset? We pick them up, we swaddle them, we help them feel safe. When those needs for security are not being met, that's when we experience scarcity or survival. And so that's why it's very important for us as adults to create this sense of security for ourselves so that we can attend to ourselves perhaps the ways we weren't attended to by our primary caregivers. For most of us, that was mom, maybe mom and dad, maybe a grandparent. The primary emotion at level 1 is fear. And the fear obviously comes out of not feeling safe, not feeling secure, sense of that you're not going to survive. I I want to quickly put up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because Maslow also talked about the physiological survival needs, air, food, drink, shelter, clothing, warmth, sleep. If these needs are not met, the human body cannot function optimally. And Maslow considered these physiological needs the most important of all the needs to the human experience. But the difference between Maslow's model and the Wright Developmental model is that the Wright Developmental model focuses on a here-now experience, that in-the-moment experience that we are working all the time. I want to talk to you a little bit about the primary emotion at level 1, which I said earlier is fear, and teach you there's 3 kinds of fear. There's real fear. This is the imminent danger. If someone's pointing a gun at you, that's very real fear. Then there's imagined real fear. That's a dog may be barking at you, and you may have been bit by a dog previously. That dog may or may not bite you, but the fact that you fear the dog might is an imaginary real fear. And then the third kind is imagined fear. This is one that I've been working on in my own personal growth, which is everyone's out to get you. Everyone's out to get me. And it's a sense that we even walk around and we walk into a room, sometimes of strangers, sometimes of friends, colleagues, and we don't have a sense that people are on our own side. So we don't feel safe, we don't feel secure, we don't feel like we're going to survive. So being in touch with our fear is really, really important. From my own personal example, I've had a lot of fear as a student. I grew up in a family of intellects. My parents were very well educated, my brother very bright, and I was the younger of 2 children, and I'm in this world of intellectual conversation. The sport in my family was reading the New York Times every day, and I just made a decision as a very young boy that I couldn't cut it. And so I made a decision that I wasn't smart or smart enough. And so I went through school feeling really bad about myself, and every day was a test of survival. Can I get by? And I learned to manage. I got decent grades, okay grades, but the fact that I went on to get a master's, and I waited 35 years to go back to school, and now I'm in a doctoral program, I kind of have to look at myself and say, how did you get here? Because that was never supposed to happen. And so every day, almost in that moment-by-moment experience, I'm attending to the fear I have and the scarcity I feel, and learning to shift to a place of trust, which is the progressive pole on the Wright Developmental model at level 1, to trust that I'm going to be okay, to trust that I have the skills not only to survive school, but to actually excel school. And right where I'm at is learning to enjoy school, like school can be fun. And so that's all new, and they say it's never too late to have a happy childhood. I am working at that. You are now with me in my experience of that. So think about times that you're in fear. You might be in fear right now. You likely have had times being in fear, maybe coming to our live event or getting yourself online, or something else that's happened today at work, getting dressed, going to work with someone who's special for you. And just think of the times in your life where there's fear and how you're going to attend to your fear in the future. So using the Wright Developmental model, you notice that I'm scared. You recognize the fear that you're feeling. And then you can make the existential choice to move from survival to trust that everything's actually okay, that the fear is mostly imagined, and even if it's real imagined, there are things you can do to take care of yourself, and that you actually have more in your control to create that sense of security for yourself. You can actually do that in the moment and shift your experience. So I thought we'd go to the movies to illustrate level 1 of the Wright Developmental model. So I hope you can pop some popcorn real quick. But let me show you a movie clip that I think does a nice job underlining the Wright Developmental model at level 1. Take a look at this.
don't believe in myself no more. Don't you understand? What if I don't believe? That's it. He's finished. It's over. That's it.
That's not it!
That is it!
Why don't you tell me the truth?
What are you putting me through, Adrian? You want to know the truth? The truth is I don't want to lose what I got. In the beginning, I didn't care about what happened to me. I go in the ring, I get busted up. I didn't care. But now there's you, there's the kid. I don't want to lose what I got.
What do we have that can't be replaced? What? A house. We got cars. We got money. We got everything but the truth. What's the truth, damn it?
I'm afraid, all right? You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
I'm afraid, too. There's nothing wrong with being afraid.
There is. For me, there is.
Why, you're human, aren't you?
Look, I don't know what I am. All I know is I'm a liar. And because of that, Mickey ain't here no more.
You didn't push him into anything. He was a grown man and he did what he had to do. And you have no right to feel guilty for what happened. You don't. You were a champion and you did what you were expected to do. And you did what I and everybody else thought you should do. And you want to tell me that those fights weren't real, that you were carried? Well, I don't believe it. It doesn't matter what I believe, because you're the one that's got to carry that fear around inside you. Afraid that everybody's going to take things away. Afraid you're going to be remembered as a coward. That you're not a man anymore. Well, none of it's true. But it doesn't matter if I tell you. It doesn't matter because you're the one that's got to settle it. Get rid of it. Because when all the smoke is cleared and everyone's through chanting your name, it's just going to be us. And you can't live like this. We can't live like this. It's going to bother you for the rest of your life. Look what it's doing to you now.
Okay, we can cut it off there. So, really powerful clip. Does anyone know the movie? Rocky 3. Rocky 3. It's about a passionate and determined Adrian, played by Talia Shire. And she gives Rocky, and Rocky is played by Sylvester Stallone, good, and an inspiring speech, a very moving speech about being true to himself, naming his fears and choosing to trust. And that's really the experience for all of us, to recognize that level of fear and not indulge in the fear, but to name the fear and then to choose to shift to a more trusting experience to create more security for ourselves so we can be out in the world, growing ourselves up. Okay, so that's level 1. Let's move on to level 2 on the Wright Developmental model. And at level 2, this is in the early childhood development stage, around the ages 6 months to 2, maybe 2 to 3 years old. And at this place in the model, we're looking at hunger. Hunger is the regressive pole, the regressive behavior, where we're seeking external affirmation. Remember, this is early childhood, so we're somewhere between 0 and 3 years old. And we're learning very early on to build an internal parent. We're able to accurately see ourselves and learn to affirm ourselves. These are really important skills I'm working on today, just shy of 60. So they're not skills that if you don't have them, there's still time. So where level 1 defines your relationship with fear, level 2 is defining our relationship with things such as nourishment. Our hurt is the primary emotion at level 2. We're really starting to understand what it is to be cared about and to be accepted. Hunger, the regressive behavior, is the craving to exist as an individual that causes us to seek our reflection in the world. And you go back to that primary parent relationship. We're going to look at a clip in a moment, because it was really through mom or dad or a grandparent, primary caregiver, who really helped us understand ourselves. So this time at level 2, 0 to 6 months to 3 years old, this is a time of core identity formation that actually informs the rest of our life until we get to this webinar and learning the Wright Developmental model and other tools to shift ways we want to experience life differently. When we deny our unmet hungers, this is really important, it actually affects our personality. People with unmet hungers can be cold, they can be aloof in how they deal with life, in their relationships. You ever meet someone who says, I don't need anyone. I'm fine on my own. That's a typical life position of someone who hasn't really learned to get their needs met. On the other hand, when hunger needs are met, the result is this increasing ability to negotiate satisfying experiences, to create affirmation for ourselves out of the ways we communicate and relate and express our feelings with others. And even in the face of direct disaffirmation, we can still affirm ourselves. And that's a skill that we teach here at the Wright Foundation for the Realization of Human Potential. I coach many executives in my business, and I run into a lot of people who have not developed this level 2 sense of being able to affirm themselves. They don't even, they're like, I don't have any hurt. I've never been hurt in my life, and yet they're angry, which we're going to talk about in a moment at level 3 on the Wright Developmental model. But the thing when you're with someone who's angry and they have a little bit of that edge to them, I know that's none of you have ever been that, but if you meet someone else who might have a little bit of edge to their anger, what I've observed is chances are they haven't really met their needs at level 2. They haven't had an experience of getting affirmed and really being accurately seen for themselves. And so they've got more of that. The anger is not a clean anger. It has more of an edge. Again, something I'm working on myself to go back and really fine-tune and better express myself with a clean anger and a clean rage that can be very effective in leading organizations and leading relationships. Otherwise, if I'm not getting my needs met, if I'm not seeing myself accurately, I can have that edge to myself. I can also have a sense of being punitive. And so those are things I'm working on. So this is really, really powerful. Let me give you another video experience that underlines this. Let me show you this video. We call it Still Face, and I think it'll be self-explanatory, but we'll come back and talk about it. Take a look at Still Face.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing?
Great. We can cut it there.
Oh, what a big...
Thanks very much. So, do you see yourself in this still face video? Do you see yourself as the baby, having yourself sometimes reflected back to you in a way that feels good and sometimes not? This is so important. This is such an important self-awareness skill to develop.
because we can start to catch that hurt that develops, and it's happening all the time. I was on the bike path here in Chicago over the weekend, riding a bike, and I passed someone who just looked lovingly at me as I was going by. I have no idea who they were, but they just give me this warm smile. Do you ever have that feeling you just want to jump in someone's lap? I mean, it's just the most wonderful. It lasted a split second. It was a great feeling. And then, a lot of times I work on the 19th floor of a high-rise building in downtown Chicago, and I always say hello to people in the elevator. It's something I've disciplined myself to do, but more so than not, people don't say hello back. They look at me kind of strangely, like, can't you see I have headphones on? Can't you see I'm reading my phone? Did I, and I get hurt. It's like, ouch, but I'm not going to stop. I'm learning to take care of that hurt child in me when that happens. So, but still, and it's not like anyone did anything to me. It was just my experience of not being reflected back. Like, I want to be seen. So that's level 2 on the Wright developmental model. Let's move on to level 3 on the model. This is also an important early childhood development age. And at this age, we're sort of around 2 to 3 years old. And what do you know about kids who are at age 2? Do you know that they have a favorite word? No. No is their favorite word. And we need to learn to say no really before we can give a genuine yes. And the reason that we need to learn to say no, and this is actually an assignment in one of our personal growth transformation labs at the Wright Foundation, is to say no, because it helps us develop boundaries. It starts to define ourselves of who we are, and at a very early age, we're asserting ourselves and our will, and we're beginning to resist things that are coming at us. So what are things that we might be told to do as children that we want to resist? Clean up your room. Finish your dinner before you have dessert. Go to bed. Turn the television off. Get off the computer. I mean, there's just all these things that we have the chance to resist. So this is a really important stage to develop this assertion. The regressive pole at level 3 is reactivity. That's where we're being told to do something and we're like, no. So that's a reactive response at times. And in regressive behavior, it's not necessarily bad as long as we're not indulging it unconsciously. It's when we're sort of being reactive and not really aware of it, and we're not really in rapport and relationship. And this can happen at work. This can happen with a client, with a customer, wherever you are. So you want to be self-aware, like, is my reaction actually in relationship with myself and with someone else? But in saying no, which is a healthy behavior, we're actually going for what we want, which is the progressive pole on the Wright developmental model at level 3, and that's the assertion. That's to assert ourselves. And the primary emotion is anger. So what are situations as an adult where we might say no? Talk to some of our students here at the Wright Foundation, and they say things like being asked out on a date. You might say no. You might be asked to run an errand. Can you pick up some milk on the way home? You might be given an assignment. We need you to work on something tonight. We need you to work on something over the weekend. You could say no. You might have plans. So things like that, staying late, doing things that you're not being paid to do. A friend or relatives might ask you to come over and do something. So it's a sense of acting in opposition. How do adults say no when we're being totally reactive? Starts with an F. I have been reactive in my life frequently. So what are characteristics of reactivity? Might be irresponsible anger, might be cursing, might be passive-aggressive, you might be slow, you might be acting more stupid than you really are, you might do poor quality work. I just went into a whole thing with my professor who's like, why do you keep turning your papers in late? Okay, that is reactivity right there. So I'm working on that one. Perhaps you are too. I want to show you another video. So see if you relate to this video. And I'm not going to tell you the title of it, but let's take a look. We'll see one more appearance of, there he is again. So he sees the parent, I assume, with the camera, has this tantrum. This is called Tantrum Boy. There you go. Turn it on. Turn it up. Anyone relate to this? Just the camera moves. Let's see one more time. He comes, where is that camera? Where is that camera? Coming around the corner. There it is. And then does the tantrum thing. I know, again, that none of you relate to that behavior. You can stop it there. Thank you. But I hope you do, because we all have our tantrums. Tantrums are healthy forms of regressive experiences. It's fine. It's good. Have your tantrum. Sometimes my wife and I, we were like, you know what? I'm going to take 1 minute to have a tantrum. It's going to be irresponsible. I apologize right now for what I'm about to say. Set your stopwatch. Give me the minute, and then I'll be responsible again. It's very healthy. Really good. So the progressive behavior at level 3 is intention. This is the principle around saying no cleanly so that you can say yes cleanly. You can say, give that to me. That's a healthy, intentional behavior. Developmentally, intention is first seen in children when they're interacting with the world. You ever take a child through a grocery store or a toy store? What do they do? They grab for everything, right? That's actually very healthy. Those are signs of intention, signs of I want, signs of give it to me. That's intention. Anger is the primary emotion. We get angry when our survival and our hunger needs are not met, and yet we're afraid or hurt. And it's an essential emotion. Anger is an essential emotion. It's one that was kind of weaned out of me as a young boy, and so I've really worked and still work on developing my aggression, my anger as an adult. We all need it, because if you can't be angry, you actually can't protect yourself. You are reactive. We allow things to be done to us instead of really saying, hey, I'm in charge here, and certain things are not okay. That will not happen with me, period. And so that's the kind of development that you want to get to. Well, there's your introduction to the Wright Developmental Model in levels 1, 2, and 3, and I hope you can see for yourself how the self-awareness of where you are on the model in a moment-by-moment real-time experience can help you notice your emotion, notice your regressive behavior, see the operating principles at each level where you can make a choice to shift out of the regressive behavior into the progressive behavior. So we learned about the importance of living conscious, self-aware lives. We learned that life is a series of moment-by-moment experiences. We learned that we have these regressive behaviors. We can choose to live progressive behaviors. Regressive behaviors are not bad, by the way. They're really important to our development and sustainability. They help us identify those unmet emotional needs. And really, really important. We all have them. No shame permitted here. The progressive behaviors, when we can lean into them and choose to make that shift, they forward our development. To discover more about who we're becoming and step more into our potential. So, the Wright Foundation for the Realization of Human Potential, and it's an accredited graduate university, the Wright Graduate University for the Realization of Human Potential, offers multitudes of opportunities for you to learn and grow yourself up, to strengthen your leadership, to become a more satisfied, more effective individual. We would like that for you. We would like that for ourselves. We hope you'll find a place to plug into what we're doing here at the Foundation. You can learn more about our graduate university at www.wrightgrad.edu. And thanks very much for being with us today.